Distinguished colleagues, fellow researchers, and friends from around the world, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are joining from today. First and foremost, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the host, the University of Macau Library, for the kind invitation to this IFLA symposium. Although circumstances prevent me from being with you in person today, I am absolutely thrilled to have this opportunity to connect with you across the digital ether, to share some of my recent research and observations. For centuries, Macau has served as a historical gateway, a unique intersection where East meets West, where diverse epistemologies and cultures have negotiated their boundaries. It is highly fitting and deeply poetic that we gather under the auspices of this university, virtually and physically, in March 2026. Because our profession, too, is standing at a profound historic intersection. Let us briefly look back over the last 3 whirlwind years. In 2023, the global library community was awestruck by the sudden explosion of generative AI. In 2024, we scrambled to understand it, testing prompts and writing preliminary guidelines. In 2025, the world, including major copyright and legislative bodies, attempted to regulate it. Now, as we settle into 2026, I believe the library community has largely moved past the initial phase of technological shock. We are no longer just asking, how do we use this tool? Instead, we have entered what I call the era of ethical awakening. We are now asking, what does this tool do to the very nature of knowledge? For decades, the core mission of our profession has been encapsulated in one powerful singular word: access. Think about it. We fought to break down physical walls, building ramps and elevators so that wheelchairs could pass. We fought to break down paywalls, championing the open access movement so that independent researchers wouldn't be locked out by exorbitant subscription fees. We deployed screen readers, optimized our websites for the visually impaired, and provided broadband to marginalized communities. Technically speaking, in terms of sheer accessibility, we have done an excellent job. But I have a very difficult question for you today. This brings me to the core argument I want to present today. Technological accessibility does not equal social inclusion. If we look at the evolution of library access models, we see a clear trajectory. Version 1.0 was physical access, opening the buildings. Version 2.0 was digital access, providing remote login and databases. Version 3.0 was open access, democratizing the licensing of scholarly output. But today, we are in version 4.0, AI-mediated access. Algorithms and intelligent agents have become the new gatekeepers of human knowledge. Yesterday's barriers were physical and economic. Today's barriers are invisible. They are algorithmic. If yesterday we fought against locked doors and paywalls, today we are fighting against opaque black boxes that filter reality before it even reaches the patron's screen. Over the next 25 minutes, I will explore 3 critical dimensions of this new ethical boundary: transparency, fairness, and data sovereignty. Let us begin with transparency. When a knowledge system, such as a minority culture, a non-mainstream scientific theory, or a localized historical narrative, is systematically excluded from an AI's generated output, it is effectively silenced. It is erased from the immediate cognitive landscape of the user. The prominent Portuguese sociologist Boaventura de Sousa Santos has a very powerful term for this. He calls it epistemicide, the destruction of a knowledge system. He argues that the destruction of a knowledge system is, in effect, the destruction of the social group that holds it. When an AI confidently hallucinates a widely accepted, yet factually incorrect mainstream narrative while ignoring the oral histories preserved in our local archives, it is committing a micro-level epistemicide. Why is this happening so pervasively? Because in the age of generative AI, our knowledge discovery systems have transitioned from being transparent catalogs to giant, impenetrable black boxes. For over a century, librarians built systems based on provenance and traceability. If you found a book via the Dewey Decimal System or a MARC record, you knew exactly why it was there. The rules were public. But when we ask a large language model a question, we face what I call the triple unknown. First, unknown data. What exactly is in the training corpus? Did OpenAI or Google scrape the digitized special collections sitting in our university archives? Does the model include literature from the non-English speaking world? We simply do not know. Second, unknown logic. In a traditional search engine, we roughly understand TF-IDF or PageRank. But in an LLM, why is this specific concept generated first? Is it due to genuine academic merit, or is it because of a commercial weight hidden deep within billions of parameters? Third, unknown updates. An LLM can be fine-tuned overnight. The answer a student receives on Tuesday might fundamentally contradict the answer they received on Monday, with absolutely no release notes explaining the shift in the model's worldview. This opacity is not just a software glitch. It is a fundamental violation of the intellectual freedom and accountability that libraries swear to protect. Fortunately, the global community is waking up. Over the past 2 years, organizations like IFLA and the Association of Research Libraries, ARL, have published crucial consensus statements. They have strongly warned against the erosion of cultural diversity by technology, and they have explicitly stated that libraries must act as algorithmic auditors. But policy statements, while necessary, are not sufficient. We need radical, operational action. I propose that the library community must collectively enforce a new procurement standard: AI model nutrition labels. Think about it. When you buy food in a supermarket, you have the legal right to read the nutrition label. You know the calories, the ingredients, and the potential allergens. Yet, when we spend millions of dollars to license AI discovery tools for our universities, we are buying a black box. Every AI tool procured by a library must come with a standardized model card. What should this model card disclose? It must tell the library the training data. What is the geographic distribution of the data? Is it 95% North American? Were indigenous data sources used, and if so, was consent granted? Intended use and limits. The vendor must explicitly state where the model fails. For example, a disclaimer stating, "This model exhibits known Western-centric biases when querying post-colonial African history." Performance metrics, not just how well it passes the US bar exam, but how it scores in multilingual cross-cultural benchmarking. Update logs, a transparent version history, ensuring that a researcher citing an AI interaction can actually achieve reproducibility. This is the user's right to know. If a commercial vendor comes to your library director and claims, "Our training data is a proprietary trade secret. It is our professional duty to respond," then your product does not belong in our library. Furthermore, to enforce this transparency, we must redefine our daily roles. We must train a new generation of librarians to become algorithmic auditors. Before we integrate a new AI chat interface into our library homepage, we must test it. Libraries must organize red teaming exercises. This means deliberately trying to break the AI, feeding it controversial historical prompts or local cultural queries to probe its ethical boundaries and expose its biases. Monitoring against model drift is no longer just a task for IT departments. It is a core function of the modern reference librarian. This naturally brings me to my second major theme today: fairness. If transparency is about what is visible to the user, fairness is about what is deemed valuable by the machine. We are moving from a world defined by the digital divide, which was about who has the hardware, to a world defined by the algorithmic divide, which is about whose culture gets optimized. We are currently witnessing a severe global AI divide. In the 2025 special issue of the IFLA Journal, colleagues from the Global South painted a very grim picture. In Latin America and Africa, they report a dynamic of double exploitation. First, their local data, digital archives, and cultural artifacts are scraped cheaply, often without permission, to train massive Western models. Second, because they lack the sovereign infrastructure to build their own massive LLMs, they are forced to buy back these commercial models at a premium. And the ultimate tragic irony, when local students use these expensive tools to research their own local history, the AI often hallucinates, applying foreign analytical frameworks to local realities. This creates a profound crisis of trust. What we are witnessing inside these discovery systems is the Matthew effect, amplified to an exponential degree. The rich get richer. As you know, generative AI is fundamentally based on probability. It predicts the next token based on maximum likelihood. But what is most likely in a dataset scraped from the internet? It is the mainstream. It is the highly cited. It is the Western, English-speaking view. The result is a vicious feedback loop. High-cited Western literature gets more exposure, which leads to it being generated more often, while the scholarly outputs of the Global South or the nuances of minority cultures become statistically invisible. Just look at the estimated data distribution on this slide. Even today, despite claims of multilingual capabilities, the underlying training data of mainstream LLMs remains overwhelmingly English, often estimated at over 90%. Chinese, despite the massive population, makes up only a tiny fraction of the global foundational models. Other European languages share another small slice. But indigenous languages, low-resource languages, they account for less than 1%. When the training data is this imbalanced, the output can never be truly fair. Language is not just a tool for communication, it is the carrier of epistemology. When you marginalize a language in the training data, you marginalize the worldview it represents. So the critical question is, can libraries reverse this algorithmic flood? We are not tech giants. We cannot change the base parameters or the trillion parameter weights of commercial foundational models. But here is the good news. We can control the last mile of the user experience. This is where the technology of retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, becomes not just a technical tool, but a profound policy instrument for libraries. We must stop letting commercial LLMs answer our patrons' academic questions directly from their flawed latent memory. Instead, we must build a middle layer. This middle layer consists of our high-quality local collections, our institutional repositories, our special collections, our locally purchased databases. When a user asks a question, the architecture must force the AI to search our curated databases first. We extract the relevant, diverse, and local context, and we inject it into the prompt. Think of it as a vital formula. The reasoning capability of a general LLM plus the curated local data of the library are fair and trustworthy knowledge service. By doing this, we are actively implementing context injection. We are artificially boosting the weight of local knowledge. We are ensuring that the voices usually drowned out by the mainstream algorithm are explicitly handed to the AI to read before it generates a single word. This is how libraries reclaim their curatorial power in the AI era. Now, I must transition to a topic that might be somewhat controversial. It challenges a belief that many of us in the library and information science field have held as a sacred truth for over 30 years. I am talking about the inherent limitations of the open access paradigm in the era of artificial intelligence. For decades, we believed that digitizing everything and putting it online for free was the ultimate virtue. The open access movement democratized reading for humans, but we must wake up to a new reality. In the age of AI, indiscriminate openness no longer just democratizes reading for humans. It democratizes scraping for corporate machines. When tech giants deploy web crawlers to scrape indigenous cultural patterns, traditional medicine recipes, or sensitive oral histories from our open digital libraries, they are not doing it to learn. They are doing it to extract raw materials, train proprietary models, and commercialize the output. The source community gets no attribution, no compensation, and most importantly, no control over how their culture is interpreted or generated by the AI. This is a new form of data colonialism. As librarians, especially those of us managing cultural heritage, archives, and indigenous knowledge, we can no longer blindly chant the mantra, digitize everything and open everything. We must urgently shift our data governance frameworks. We are all familiar with the FAIR principles, making data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. FAIR is excellent for data sharing, but it is entirely data-centric. It asks, how can the machine read this easily? We must now adopt the CARE principles, which are people-centric. C for collective benefit. Does opening this data actually benefit the community it came from, or only the AI developer? For authority to control. Does the community retain the right to say no to AI scraping? R for responsibility. Does the library take responsibility for protecting sensitive knowledge from being distorted by generative algorithms? E for ethics. Is our data policy ethical, placing human dignity above machine efficiency? Let me share a brilliant, inspiring case study from New Zealand. There is a Maori organization called Te Hiku Media. A few years ago, major Silicon Valley tech giants approached them, asking for access to their vast archives of Maori language audio. They wanted to use it to train their global speech-to-text models. By traditional open access logic, Te Hiku Media should have happily handed it over. Let the world hear the Maori voice, but they possessed incredible foresight, and they refused. They realized that handing over the data meant losing sovereignty. If the tech company owned the model, they would eventually sell it back to the Maori people. Worse, if the model hallucinated or mispronounced sacred cultural terms, the community would have zero power to fix the algorithm. Instead, they chose data sovereignty. They gathered their own community, built their own secure servers, and developed their own AI voice recognition model for the Maori language. They kept absolute ownership. They ensured the technology was used strictly for language revitalization, not for corporate profit. This case is a wake-up call for every library director watching today. In the future, the library must evolve beyond being just a portal or a publisher. We must become a data trust. Just as a financial trust safeguards assets, a library data trust safeguards community data. We must implement tiered access protocols. Some knowledge, like public domain literature, can remain totally open for global AI training, but other knowledge, like community archives or sensitive research, must be placed behind algorithmic shields. We must implement protocols where AI can only access this data if it carries cryptographic authorization, proving it will respect the context and not use it for commercial foundational training. This, my colleagues, is also a form of access, but it is dignified access. Finally, let us discuss how we operationalize all of this. Facing these massive, complex ethical challenges, how do we build a practical defense in our daily operations? My entire governance philosophy can be summarized in one simple, uncompromising phrase: no human, no AI. Now, please do not misunderstand me. This is not a Luddite rejection of automation. I am not suggesting we go back to card catalogs. Rather, it is an absolute insistence on the attribution of responsibility. Algorithms cannot be held morally or legally accountable. Only humans can. Therefore, at critical decision points of knowledge service, there must be a human in the loop. To implement this, libraries should adopt a tiered governance model based on risk for low-risk scenarios. If a patron is asking the AI chatbot for the library's opening hours, or asking it to format a citation in APA style. Let the AI work fully autonomously. We only need post hoc checks on the logs. For medium risk scenarios, if a graduate student is using AI to generate a literature review or synthesize academic papers, we must mandate human-machine collaboration. The librarian must act as a co-pilot, guiding the student to verify the AI's sources and check for hallucinations. Colleagues, we often hear the anxious question, will AI replace librarians? My answer is definitive, no. AI will not replace librarians, but librarians who know how to use AI ethically will absolutely replace those who do not. Our roles are fundamentally reshaping. We are evolving from gatekeepers into prompt engineers, teaching our patrons how to interrogate algorithms critically. We are becoming data curators, feeding structured, unbiased, high-quality data into specialized models. And above all, we are becoming algorithm auditors, holding the line on ethics. As we look toward the remainder of the 2020s, I firmly believe this. The future prestige and value of a library will not lie in possessing the most advanced algorithms. Technology will become a cheap commodity. The true value of the library will lie in holding the firmest ethical anchors. Let us return to where we started today, from technological accessibility to social inclusion. Technology has indeed given us a powerful hammer to break down the physical and digital walls of the past. But if we swing that hammer without conscience, without transparency, and without fairness, we will simply build a new, much higher wall, an invisible wall of cognitive bias and epistemic exclusion. Today, as we share this virtual space from every corner of the globe, let us forge a new professional compact for the AI era. We do not reject technology, but we adamantly refuse to follow it blindly. We embrace the incredible efficiency of AI, but we value fairness and human dignity infinitely more. We seek global connection, but we will fight tooth and nail to defend local diversity. Let us work together to ensure that the library remains not just a server farm for data extraction, but a true sanctuary for the human conscience. Let us ensure that the technology in our hands makes every culture, every language, and every human being seen, respected, and included. Thank you to the University of Macau for hosting this incredible symposium. And thank you all, wherever you are in the world, for sharing your most valuable asset with me today, your time and your attention. I look forward to our discussions.